What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So you're wondering, why would you fly a 6-inch over a 5? And honestly, why would you do that? Well, in this video, we're going to jump right into that, and we're going to talk about long range for a second. We're going to talk about medium range, long range, and proximity, because really this machine can do it all. It can do cinema, it can do freestyle, it can do short range, medium range, and it can get out towards long range distances. 6-inch drones, I've been flying 6-inch for about 9 years now, and out in the state of Oregon we have huge mountain ranges and canyons, and we've been flying FPV wings for almost a decade as well, down into those canyons. And we used to use UHF, and we graduated initially from UHF over to using 900 megahertz, 915 megahertz with TBS Crossfire. And if you don't know about it, TBS Crossfire module, this is the full-blown style module right here with this diamond antenna on top. This is a great setup that can go into any JR module bay here. You have to have the Crossfire option inside OpenTX for this to work, or it will not work on your radio, so that's pretty important. Some of the smaller radios now will accept this full-blown module, and they have a Crossfire Lite as well, which is a smaller version of it. So if you want to fly long range, you want to get out there and you want to explore some terrain, this is a great way to do it. And there is a big difference between 5-inch and a 6-inch quad. Now, most people, when they come to me and they start talking about long range and 5-inch, I don't really see the two going together. 5-inch, I just for long range, I don't really see it. And even some of the 4-inch ones, even though I could get 25 minutes, because of how slow they are and how susceptible to wind and environmental factors they are, a lot of us who fly real long range, we fly 6 and 7-inch quads. This is what we call a mountain surfer. The 5-inch category, it's not really a mountain surfer. I'll be honest with you guys. Most of the guys that fly long range and do mountain surfing, they're using 6 and 7-inch quads. This is your cruiser mountain surfer quad right here. So 6-inch bi-blades. They put bi-blades on there because it's more efficient, and they actually have 2105.5 motors on here, and these are 1500 kV. Now, why would they use 1500 kV? Because that gives us the option to be able to run a Li-Ion pack. If they ran 2500 kV, this Li-Ion pack wouldn't be able to handle the amp load, so then you wouldn't be able to use a Li-Ion pack to get 25 minutes because you'd have basically race motors on there. So I've been preaching about low kV motors for well over a decade now on my airplanes, and I'm just getting a much more efficient, longer flight with lower kV. Less power and throttle and punch on a lower kV motor with a smaller battery, but you're going to get a longer flight time and more pilot time, which is what most of us are looking for in the long range rig. So this is nice. It does have a GoPro mount on the front for full-size GoPro. You can carry full-size GoPro in here, decased. You can also carry the Insta360 Go 2 or the regular Go or any of the other sport cams out there on this quad. You can fly it on 4S, you can fly it on 6S LiPo, and you can also fly it on the Li-Ion. Now, the one I'm going to test today is the 4SP. This is the 4S1P 18650 3500 milliamp pack. Now, if you want to get close to 30 minutes, this is the pack that you want to get. It's a little more expensive than the other ones out there, but this one will get you, this should be able to get you at least 25 minutes for the Recon 6. So I've got my TBS Crossfire on here, I've got GPS on here, I've got an external beeper, and I have a really, really nice tune on this one in comparison to the Recon 5. When I flew the Recon 5 a while back, it had not so great a tune. So we're going to test this out today out in the field. I'm going to show you the tune on here, and I'm going to show you how well it does some kind of mild freestyle. You can freestyle this. If you want to freestyle it, do it on 6S, and it will rip on 6S. So let's go ahead now, and before we get started with the flight test, don't forget, guys, jump in here in the comments section. Make your comment for the Eachine Novice 4 right here. Everything in this case is going to one lucky subscriber on my channel, and this is a TX12. We have a 4-inch quad with GPS in the back, a tall antenna like most of the long-range quads have, and all the bells and whistles on this guy. This is probably about $400 value that I'm going to give away on my channel sometime this month. So be sure to leave a comment down below, subscribe on the channel, and that's all you have to do to get entered into this drawing for July. So everything in this box you need, including a charger as well. So ship free to your door. Without further ado, guys, let's go fly. See you out in the field. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do the flight test now. No hypersmooth, no GoPro on here. We're just doing raw camera footage today. I want to see and show you what the tune looks like, and this is the first time I'm seeing it myself full screen, so I can make some comments on this. Well, in my goggles it looked great, but on the computer it's much bigger now, and I can really see if there's any jello. You can really see jello when you fly up high, and when you fly up high in the skies where you really see these race quads jello. So I say race quad, this is an FPV long range quad, medium range quad. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of jello in there. This tune on this one is eons better than the Rekon 5's tune. The Rekon 5 tune wasn't all that great. It didn't really impress me. I was hoping for better, much better factory tune on the Rekon 5. But now here we are with the 6, and this is like the big brother to the 5. And I have to tell you, if you've never flown a 6-inch before, you gotta try it. Even before you buy this one, if you know someone that has a 6-inch quad, go fly it. It's amazing. And if you fly a 7, you'll be even more amazed. I mean, it's like the difference between a small boat in a choppy river and a much larger boat. You just have so much more authority, and it feels really locked in. It doesn't feel squirrely like a 4-inch. And look at those maneuvers right there. This big, almost 70% throttle at the low end of that power loop. And that's the big thing about this quad, guys. Not really a freestyle quad with 1500 kV motors on here. I mean, you can fly a 6S LiPo on here and you'll get some pretty good juice out of that, but right here I'm flying 4S, and I'm coming up to about 70 to 80% throttle on those big loops. And typically on race motors, the 2550 kV motors, I'm not really going to be punching it that much. I'm usually max out about 50% throttle a lot of the time with 2550 kV motors. But we're also talking bigger motors too. We're talking like 2306 motors versus something much smaller. And these are basically chopped in half, and then also the KV's chopped in half as well to make them ultralight and perform and give you the best endurance, longest flights. That's what these motors are all about, making them ultralight and fly a long time. But I love the way this is tracking. It tracks great. So it does big air maneuvers. It does nice, long, low tracking, flies great close to the ground, and flips and rolls nice. It's not over rotating, which I love. Some of the quads I've flown recently just seem to have a little too much high rates on the flip and roll rates. And this one seems to be locked in really nicely. So I think if you took this one out, you're a new pilot and you were trying to fly acro freestyle, you would be able to do it. If you're brand new, start out on 4S by all means, and then move up to 6S later. Some people are just not used to 6S, and if you're still practicing acro, you should definitely be flying a 4S pack on this quad. But notice the speed difference here. This is a 4S battery. Typically, I don't see these kind of speeds on a 5-inch unless I'm flying 6S and I'm really, really ripping. I mean, look how fast this quad is. This quad will get miles out there in a few minutes. So you bring this baby up high and send it with that crossfire rig, and you're going to go way out there. And with this power system and a flight controller and ESC setup, I would trust it to send it up the mountain and back down the mountain, no problem. And again, I would put a D-case GoPro in here versus a full-size GoPro. The big thing for me is not stressing out the power system when I'm up on the mountain. When I'm making that big climb up the mountain, I don't want a lot of extra weight on there. A lot of guys love that beautiful 4K video, but really I just want to go to the top and come back down safely and not have to hike up there and find my GoPro or the rig itself. And sometimes that extra bit of weight, it can cause problems or brownouts because you're pushing extra amps. You're drawing extra amps out of the power system. So the lighter you fly, the lighter your rig is, less stress on the power system, more likely it is you're going to come back home. If you're carrying a heavy load, same thing. Just a little more stress, but wow, I'm loving the way this is flying. The lines are really, really fun with this quad. I'm just able to do much larger maneuvers than I would with a 5-inch or a 4-inch. But it kind of gives me a different perspective on flying this quad. And for long range, this is the ticket. This is what you want to get out there and really, really have some fun. With a Li-Ion or a LiPo, the REKON6 is where it's at. Let's go back to the studio. All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. I have it on scale right here, and this was without any battery on here. We're looking at 235.5 grams. That is before you add something like a 4S 1550. I mean, that's going to get you in upwards of like 400 grams, 411 grams right there. So with a GoPro on top, you know, you're probably going to be looking at close to 500 grams with your total takeoff weight. It's going to be quite a bit heavier than one of the smaller counterparts like the sub 250G Recon 4. If you're looking for something under 250G that you still can send it out there for miles, this little guy will go miles, no problem. And it'll carry a decased GoPro, even a full-size GoPro up here. I wouldn't really recommend a full-size GoPro on this quad, but you're gonna just be putting extra amp draw into your power system. So you're gonna be sucking out a lot of extra amps. If you want to run a larger camera on that one, you could do something like the iFlight Go Cam. This one is brand new, just came out, and so far it's great because it has two options on here. You can use a battery on there, or you can take the battery off and plug it into the quad's flight controller. That's pretty cool. So it can be powered two ways. It can be powered from a cable or from the weight of a battery. So if you want to have a little extra weight on there, you don't mind that, then you can use the battery. But that's not bad. 236 grams for a 6-inch quad. That's one of the lightest 6-inch out there, because this is definitely designed to be an ultralight. We have that same style quad sort of set up on the bottom here. We've got gold standoffs coming up through the flight controller on the REKON6, and the REKON6 is actually, I believe it was rocking an F7 flight controller, which is really, really cool. And this one comes in analog as well at $289, $385 currently for the HD version. They also have a version with DJI on it, and the Cadex Vista will sit right back here. I believe it has the Nebula on there, by the way. But this one has analog setup on there, and it has the Zeus VTX in the back here that will run up to 800 milliwatts. So guys, if you want to get way out there, 800 will get you way out there on analog video 5.8. Up front we have the Cadex Ratel and plenty of tilt here. And you know what, I think I'd like the camera shroud and combo like GoPro mount on Hglrc's quad better than some of the other ones out there. It seems to be nice and protective of the camera. It has plenty of shroud around the camera itself, so top to bottom. And we also have a carbon plate underneath it there. You can see the capacitor there coming off the ESCs. And we have 2105.5 1500 kV motors. These are the Recon branded FPV motors. Super sweet. And 1500. I've talked about this before. Under 2000 kV typically will be a 6S quad or something that you can fly long range, because around the 1750 to 1650 to 1500 kV motors will get you way longer flight times. You know, don't expect like the beastiest freestyle quad in the world on 4S. If you fly it on 4S and you try to freestyle it, you'll see about what it was capable of if you go back and watch the flight test. If you fly it on 6S, it'll power loop all day long, no problem. But you'll see a little more vibes because this quad is particularly tuned for 4S. And I'm saying I'm getting like 10 minutes flight time out of a 4S 1550 battery here. So the R-Line by Tattoo is one of my favorite batteries in the community. Well, I could probably squeak 12 minutes out of this quad with this battery if I was just doing some medium range mountain surfing. It wouldn't be a bad day if I had just a handful of 4S batteries and just go out there and cruise. So you will probably get a little bit longer flight time with a 6S, like 1300. You might get around, I'd say 15 minutes with that battery. And then with the 4S Li-Ion pack, man, you guys are going to be able to get like 25 minutes out of this pack. So I tested this one up to about 24 and a half minutes before I was able to set down. So it is possible to get 25 minutes if you use the 3500 milliamp pack with this quad. So I said before, a 3 to 6S LiPo. You probably wouldn't want to fly 3 on here. That's what they have on the specs. But Zeus F722, it's the mini 20x20 flight controller. And we have, what size are the ESCs? 28 amp steady current and 35 amp burst. So 28 amp BL Heli S 4-in-1 ESCs right there. If you lose one, unfortunately you'll lose them all, but they're pretty easy to replace. We have these kickback arms off the back of the quad, which I really like. Kind of gives it that cool old school dead cat look. And then we have swept forward arms, and typically dead cats front arms go straight out like this and they don't really swing forward. It would be cool. I was kind of wishing that this camera sat a little further out because I could see a little bit of the props in just the corner of the DVR, which honestly I like. Some people don't like that, but I actually like that a lot. Seeing props in view just makes me feel like I'm flying something, you know? It's not just that straight ahead DJI shot. I also like that they used the hammer on here. I believe this was the hammer, right-hand circular polarized, long edition for long range. And this is nice because this gets your signal back to your goggles away from all of this RF down here, and it gets it well above where the battery is. For years, I've seen antennas only be this tall off the back of the quad. Then when you put a battery on there, when you turn around and come back the other way, sometimes the battery's in the way. So you do get a little bit of breakup sometimes. So and most of it's momentarily breakup. It's not that bad. And we also have a GPS in the very back as well. It's an M80 GPS with return to home in Betaflight. You can set that up several different ways. Betaflight currently has 3 different types of return to home. You've got return to home on a switch. You've got low voltage at the end of the battery return to home, so it'll come back and land. And you also have loss of signal return to home. So if you lose signal from your crossfire, if you're dipping down into a canyon, you're doing some canyon surfing, that's super important. I've used that a lot before in the past when I dip behind a rock or a boulder or something where I think I could skirt through, and sometimes you can just make it through behind something and then come out and never lose signal. But the great thing about GPS on a quad like this versus something that doesn't have GPS, if you fail safe and you're a mile out there in a canyon somewhere, you're just going to go down in the rocks. If this fail-safes, what's going to happen when GPS takes over? If you're in acro, even if you're in acro, this baby levels out and immediately starts to climb, and it goes up to that specified altitude and then turns around and starts making its way back. But chances are, 99% of the time, what happens is you momentarily lose signal and then you gain it back. And that momentary gain, like loss of signal, when you're flying 60 miles an hour behind a rock between you and the transmitter, that's the problem where people just drop to the ground and crash a mile out because they just momentarily lost signal. Now with GPS, it's great because you're on a track and you're going, you lose signal, the GPS basically levels you out, and then when it regains, you kick back into acro. So what happens in your pilot view, all of a sudden you see just a twitch like this. It's like a that was likely a fail-safe. So I can't stress enough about you guys flying with GPS when you fly medium or long range. It's just so important. It has saved so many of my rigs from just going in. Just having that, it's kind of an extra bit of precaution and backup for your quad. I mean, you know, in the investment in general. one other thing that I didn't really comment about in this review yet is the nuts that they have on top of these props. These are like little tiny micro style nuts, and I'm on the fence about whether I like these or not. I haven't used them before in any other type of quad. So this is a threaded shaft coming up out of this 2105 motor, and honestly I'm still getting used to that because I had to take a pair of like flathead pliers. I didn't have the exact right driver around for this. I need to find one actually. Instead of using the flathead pliers, I wouldn't suggest doing that. Try to find a nut that fits it perfect and just drive it down till it's seated properly and firmly, not over tightened. Very important not to over tighten, but I feel like I just wish it had the same system everything else had. Maybe these are more of a safeguard for a larger prop, but honestly I've never seen it. And maybe it's just because we're running 6 now instead of those 5 with the 2 bolts. I don't really think I'd trust the 2 bolts. I think I'd trust this more for a 6-inch prop versus the 2 bolts, because I think what they wanted to do here was actually not have one of those little 2mm bolts fly out. This prop might throw one of those. Even if you had a tiny amount of Loctite on it, you still might be taking a chance with this large of a prop. So you're not spinning higher kV or anything, so it would actually be spinning lower revolutions. So I'm not sure why they did that, but maybe it's a better safeguard for long range from the engineering team. So that's cool that they thought about us and they want us to come back safely. The other thing about this one is it does have that external beeper on here, and that's super important for long range. It'll beep for days, like I've mentioned before. These are great to have. Even if this comes unplugged right here, it'll still beep for days. That's sweet. So XT60 on this baby too. No XT30 here, so we're ready for the big dog batteries. You can put probably about the largest pack I'd put on here, probably be around 2200 maybe. You can do a Li-Ion 2200 on this baby and do some 30-minute plus types of flight tests. I believe Geprc is going to do some much larger size Li-Ion packs on there, the 2100 size packs instead of the 18650s. So we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully he'll get along, maybe a 35-minute flight time out of this guy. This has a lot of capability. So freestyle, cinema, medium range, short range, or long range, 800 milliwatt on here, all the bells and whistles. Honestly, this is really great. If you were to ask me which one would I get, the something full size out there that has 6-inch props on there, a full size, standard full size 6-inch quad, it's gonna weigh like 600 grams or more. So this is like a really lightweight alternative to what we've seen and flown in the past. So this is really welcome for long range ultralight 6-inch. This is really fantastic. So I gotta say 5 stars out to the Geprc crowd and the Rekon FPV team for building us long range rigs that are really starting to get fancy, and really the design is super cool too. So congrats on the design, great tune, and very, very well functioning quad for just about any purpose you want. So you can check this one out in the link down below, guys, and pick one of these up, the analog version or the HD version. If you do, it benefits the channel. That really, really helps me out, and I appreciate your help and support. And hopefully you like my videos. Please do click subscribe and click the notification bell for when the new videos come out, because I got new stuff coming out all the time. But most importantly, comment and subscribe on the channel too, because we're giving away that Eachine Novice 4 coming up this month. About a week or 2 away from giving that one away to some lucky subscriber on my channel. So guys, stay humble and kind out there. I'm Justin Davis. Be well. Happy FPV, everybody. Rekon6 in the house. I'll see you on the next one.